Hi viewers, welcome to Beginners Tech Road.
This is my first video in the series of object-oriented programming language C#. In this video, I will give you very simple introduction about programming language and then we will start basics of programming language. Okay, so first if you look at what is C#, okay, it is a simple and modern object-oriented programming language and it is developed by Microsoft company. Okay, so we will learn about what is the object-oriented programming language, okay, later on. So before that we will just introduce about the basics of the programming language and then we will learn the advanced concept object-oriented programming language. Okay. Also, C# is similar to other object-oriented programming languages like C++ and Java. If we learn any one language, then learning other languages are very easy and can be done in short time as concepts are similar. And C# is part of .NET framework and the .NET framework is a platform it containing very vast library of codes, so that helps us to code the various type of applications like Windows applications, web applications, mobile applications, so like that. So it is a built-in library. Okay, so next, why we need programming language?
Programming language for where we will, if you see, we know very basics all these things, but just to recap once again, if you see a computer program, what it is just some set of instructions. Okay, it's a collectively having a set of instructions. We know basics about the computer and how it works, all we know. So the set of instructions as a collectively, so we can give to a computer so that it can carry out that whatever the sequence of arithmetic, logical operations, whatever we have defined we have provided as instructions. Okay, it takes automatically, and whatever the output we are expecting or whatever the behavior we are expecting with that set of instructions, so it exhibits automatically as per the whatever the instructions we have given. So that is the program. Okay, so with multiple programs, okay, computer can able to do a very wide range of tasks. Okay, so whatever the task we can make it to perform through the computer, we can do with these programs. Okay, so the similar way, that is what even for Azure also, few tasks we can make it as a programs using a programming language like this C#, so that we can make some tasks in Azure also, that we are going to discuss later on. Okay, so this is where we need some programming language to develop any program. Okay, to give a computer to instructions, whatever the set of operations, we need some programming language to develop programs. So, okay, so that is C# is the one of the famous powerful language like Java, C++. Okay, so now if we come to a language in the C#, so whatever may be the language, whether it is C# language or C++ or Java or any kind of languages, if you take it, in general the concepts are same. Okay, if you learn about the C# language, it's more or less similarly in the any other languages also, only like a terminology may be a slight difference, but the concept is same everywhere. So when we come to a programming language, okay, the first step where if we want to understand, so we would like to know about the variables. So we know very well about the computer and whatever the process, it does the process and all the things. If you see, actually the basic in a simple way, if you see, okay, so we are going to give some instructions and it process the instructions, and if some information, if it is required, it takes as the inputs, and some information, if it is required, it stores in the storage, and if it is required, it takes from the storage. Okay, in all way it will do all these things to do whatever the process in the computer. So if you see something to store, why? Because computer itself, it should keep remember something, the way how human beings will do. Okay, if something we will remember in our mind, so that whenever we require, we will recollect that and we will do some activities. Similar way, in a computer also, something to process, there may be a lot of things to remember. Based on that, it should recollect and it's used in the process. So in that, for that, we should, to store some information, we should have variables. Okay, it's nothing but a variables are containers to store some values. Okay, so if you come to any language, and in particular if you come to a C sharp also, the variable, what is a variable? We know it stores a value, but it is nothing but a one identifier with a unique name. Why? Because to store some information and later on to retrieve that same information, we should have some unique identifier. Otherwise, which information to take it? It will be a confusion, or it's going to be a impossible to do some process, right? So that is the reason we are going to give a one unique name for that identifier as a variable. Okay, so generally if you come to any language, okay, there will be a syntax. It's nothing but a rule, kind of a structure, a syntax. So we need to follow that syntax. Okay, whatever the language, every language will be having syntaxes to give the rules and regulations of whatever the things we are going to do in the respective programming language. So in this comes to a variable, the variables also, there is a rule, definition. We should follow the same way. That we usually will call it as a syntax. So later on in our discussions also, wherever I say syntax, it means a fixed kind of structure that is the definition and whatever we are going to use for that respective. Okay, so in this variables, if you come, the syntax is a basic syntax. So even in a syntax also, there will be a complex syntaxes, but just for you to understand, we are going to introduce everywhere a basic syntax. If you go through resources, available resource, you can get a complete syntax. It's going to be a complex. If you understand a basic syntax, similar way you can very well understand the complex syntaxes, as well as how you can use that syntax in your coding also. It's easy for you to understand. So a basic syntax for variables, if you see, data type, one space, and then a variable list is nothing but the variable list, in the sense you can give one variable or multiple variables. So this is the very basic syntax. Okay, the variable list, in the sense we know what is the variable. Is going to be a variable we are going to uniquely identify with the one name. Okay, that is the, if you are going to give a one name variable, you can give here. If you are going to give a multiple names, we are going to give a multiple variable names. And in front of that variable name, we are going to give a data type. Okay, so we are going to discuss about what is a data type. Okay, before going to discuss about the data type, when it comes to a variable name, okay, as we mentioned, it is going to be a unique name. We should give it as a unique name. So how that some rules and regulations we should follow when we are going to define a name. Okay, the way how we are, every individual have a name, our own name. Okay, here also the variables also we are going to give a name, but here we are going to maintain a structured and a defined way of the things how we are going to follow. So the whatever the variable name you are going to define, that should be begin with letter. Always it should begin with the letter. It cannot be begin with the digit or anything. But it can contains various letters, digits, and in comes to a characters, it can be a underscore. Other than digits and alphabet, additionally you can use a underscore. You cannot use the space, white space. You cannot use in a variable names. Okay, and also the names are case sensitive. Okay, so it's nothing but the lowercase uppercase makes different. Both are not same. Okay, it makes difference. Okay, so example, language name, all we use it as a lowercase, and here language name we use it as a language in a totally a lowercase, and in a name the first character we used as a capital, N as a capital. So as a word, if you see language name, both are same. But if you see the variable name and how the case you have used, if you see, both are different variables. Okay, and also the another important is reserved words of the language. We will call it as a even keywords. Example, the C# is the language what we are going to learn. Similarly, any of the language, as we discussed earlier, there will be a very big library already available to make use and to use the language in a whatever the way extent we are going to use for our developing a programs. So there will be a defined words in that library. The same words we cannot use as a variable name. Why? Because that also going to be a conflict, right? Why? Because the library, whatever the built-in library as a part of framework, we are going to get into a language, but still that is nothing but a part of the language. So whatever the words, variables we are going to use, it should not be same. Why? Because we should maintain a unique. So that is the reason that reserved words also we should not use as a variable name. So what are the reserved words we are going to come? It's nothing but in the library, whatever we are going to use that keyword, those are all reserved words. We will come to know once if we learn further about this language, we will come to know what are the various keywords. But we have a different kind of data. So how to understand, especially as a computer, everything should be a very clear. Okay, there should not be any ambiguity. Okay, we should maintain everything is a clear, right? As a uniqueness should be there, then only it process. So even we need, when we are defining a one variable, we need to say that what kind of data it's going to store. That is nothing but the data type. Okay, every language will support various kind of data types. Okay, there will be a custom, okay, data types will be there. But the basic, if you see, okay, most of the languages, especially if you come to a C# language, so these are the basic data types. So this is the word, what we discussed earlier, keywords, reserved words. Example, if you see I and T, everything will be in a small case. As we discussed, C# is a case sensitive language. So we should use this word as it is in our coding. Okay. If you use like a I as a capital or something as a capital, it won't allow. Okay. That we need to remember. Okay. So INT is a one keyword. It says the type of the data, the whatever you are going to store is a integer type. It's a number, in the number, a integer type. So it's a integer is nothing but that values, whatever. We know very well that integer is nothing but a without the decimals. It stores only the integer part. It has a range, how much values it can, like a range between how much number it can be stored. So that is what I mentioned here in a description. That is about the int. Int keyword is going to use for defining a variable of integer data type. Okay. Similar way, another numeric is long, long. it is nothing but again a whole number, but the range is having a very big. So if you are going to store a smaller values, you can choose int data type. If you are going to store as a bigger value, you are going to choose long data type. Then if you come to the fractional numbers, fractional numbers is nothing but there may be we need to store with the decimal values. Okay, we have a three different kind of data types: float, double, decimal. So the only difference is, if you see the way how we understood the difference between int and long, similar way the float, double, decimal also, the decimal values, how many in a fractional number, how many significant digits we can store, it gives. So like a float, it can be up to 7 significant digits, double up to 15, decimal if you say 28 to 29. It's nothing but if you are having a higher decimals, if you want to use, you can use that decimal. So mostly those kind of thing in our regular life point of view, if you see, we may use a double float, that kind of things. But when it comes some kind of scientific programmings wherever we required, so in that kind of areas, you can use like a double, decimal. So those kind of things. It's all whatever you use. Only the thing is, it allows whatever you use, but only the thing is every data type, as it indicates, it stores some value. We know very well that to store some value in our brain, we will store. Okay. Similar way in a computer, we are going to store. So it's to store what it's need, it takes some space to store. Okay. There is a various kind of storage things are there. We know very well about those. So to store these data types also, if you are taking a higher, like a instead of a int, if you take a long, it nothing but the int use a smaller space than long in a storage. So that is the reason when we are choosing a data type based on the requirement, if you are really never required to store such a big number, then instead of using a long, it's a good to use int to minimize the usage of the storage. Okay, that is what the difference. That's all. Okay, and as I said, it stores the different. The major difference is the storing the values as a higher values. But other way, if you forget about that, how much it stores, if you choose whatever you wish, then the different like a disadvantage over the advantage, if you see, that is what, instead of using a int, if you use a long, it occupies a more space, memory space. When it is required, then we need to go to a long. So that is about the data type. Similar way, the another data type, bool, B-O-O-L, bool. It is nothing but it indicates a Boolean value, like a maximum possibility is only true or two, either true or false. That's all. The bool data type can store only two values, indication of a true or false. Usually that nothing but it says like where it is helpful. If you want, usually we are going to use this kind of data type, Boolean data type, wherever if you want to make some flags or wherever we want to make some decisions. Okay, so we can use this Boolean types. So where it is required to make a decisions, why do we require all those things, how we can make a decisions, all we will come up later discussions. Okay, similar way, the next type is char, C-H-A-R, char is the keyword to define as a char data type variable. Okay, it is nothing but char, it stores only a single character or letter. Okay, so usually to define this data type, we are going to use a char, and usually the values, wherever we use a values to store the char data type, we should use a single quotes. Example, small a or capital A, these are the characters. when we are assigning is nothing to store the values for a character data type, we should use the single quotes for a character data type. When it comes to a string, it is nothing but a collection or sequence of characters. Char is only a one character. String is nothing but a sequence of characters. So the differentiate to char and string, while storing the char, we are going to use a single quote. For a string, we are going to use a double quote in a C# language. Okay. So this is about the data types.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe to our channel for more videos.